Hey, Savio, how's it going, my friend?
Good, good. And you,
Oh
Nasir.
man, it's been gazillions of years, I think. Just meeting with you and Zoom calls and how you been, my friend?
I've been excellent. I've been excellent. I've been very, very busy. COVID sort of killed a lot of businesses, but not for us, not for investors, not for construction business. In fact, I would say it's grown so much. So you know, on one side, I feel sorry for all the businesses that got really hit by it, but on the other
Right.
side, me personally and my business as an investor and as a GC, it's just taken off. It's crazy.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Listen, I've seen your results. I think sorry, you have done amazing stuff. I mean, you brought secondary unit in Windsor when we started the project in 2019, I think, right?
Yes, you and I were the first ones, my friend. You and I were the first ones. Nobody, was even looking at ADUs here in Windsor until we came along and we said, let's not recreate the wheel. Actually, we
Exactly.
copied what people were doing with great success out in GTA, brought it to a smaller city like Windsor, and now it's just everywhere. It's taken off. It's taken off, man. It's like
Awesome,
everywhere.
man.
So
I mean, I see the results. I see the result, my friend. You are on fire up there in Windsor and
thank you.
helping a lot your clients and all that. So it's an amazing journey that I've been seeing and witnessing as well. So Savio, why are we talking about ADU? These days in the marketplace, like especially like Windsor or even the municipality that have allowed the ADUs. Tell us a little bit about what is ADU, what are the benefit, and then we can dive into the due diligence of before you get to build the ADU.
Sure, sure. Before I get into the meat and bones of ADUs, Nasser, I have to thank you first, right? Because for a couple of things. Number one is that as we just mentioned, you and I started this ADU concept here in Windsor. As a joint venture partner, we met at one of the Win City Investors Club. I think one of their first ever meetings, right?
Yep.
So you being in the GTA and I'm being here in Windsor, I just moved to Windsor, if I recall, right? I was still investing in Detroit. You had the trust and faith in me and said, okay, let's do this together, even though we've not done this before. I don't know this guy. We just met. We had a good connection. That vibes were there. But you brought a lot of money to the table. You had a lot of faith in me, and we did this together. And yes, it was successful. Thank God for it. Right? If you knew it was going to be successful at the start, but you had the trust to put in me. So I want to thank you for that. It's much appreciated.
Thank
And
you, and thanks.
second of all, most importantly, you're a seasoned investor yourself. So you've had or you still have multiple rental properties, right? So you've done this before. It's not the first time at the table, really, right?
Right.
I have to give appreciation and give thanks to people like you who are now sharing your experience and your wealth of knowledge in doing this for somebody who's just starting or somebody who wants to get started into real estate investing, right? Because
Awesome.
very easily you could have just kept this information to yourself, added more property to your portfolio. You're pretty successful as it is, right? And then done nothing with it. But I really appreciate guys like you who are creating these podcasts so you can share that knowledge so everybody else can eat piece of this pie, because it's a big pie and there's enough to go around, right? So thank you for educating the public.
Thank you very much. It's a journey for everybody. We came here for a reason, opportunity and do well. And so why not all Canadians? So that's really what we want for everybody, is to do something so they don't struggle as well.
Absolutely. And it's a great transition that you say that to the answer to your question, right? So why ADUs in the first place? What is an ADU? An ADU, first of all, is an additional dwelling unit. Okay, so that's the acronym for additional dwelling unit. Basically, we're taking a single family home, and this is critical. You got to realize that it's still a single family home, but we are adding a secondary unit or an additional dwelling unit. Okay, and why are we doing that? You said we're trying to help all Canadians stop struggling. Well, we all know as Canadians, especially in Ontario and other parts of Canada as well, it's happening. The property prices are continuing to go skyrocket, right? It's continuing to go. There are people, the government, people smarter than us who are all trying to basically stifle the pricing growth, but it's really not happening. Okay, what does that mean? That means that for an investor, it gets harder to cash flow on their properties, right? Because of course the increased prices means your purchase price is much higher. By the time you refi or put a tenant in there, in a single family home, that rent that you're getting is not really covering your mortgage, your interest, your property taxes, your insurance, your water tank rental, and your gardening, and so on and so forth. It doesn't happen anymore. It doesn't work anymore, right? So therefore, by adding a secondary unit or an additional dwelling unit, you're increasing the cash flow. Instead of one rent, you're getting two rents, right? How great is that, right? So suddenly, from a property or an investment that's not giving you cash at the end of the month, it continues to be a liability. You're now turning that asset into a real asset because you're cash flowing from that asset. Not only do you own that property, which is appreciating in value, you're actually taking out money from it every single month. So that's the one and only reason why we're doing it, right?
Yeah, I know, man. If I knew this a long time ago when I came here, I could be doing house hacking, like you explained. What a beautiful way of reducing your personal expense as well. Not just as an investor to make cash flow, but also your family cash flow, which is your wealth within the house. Like within your hard working dollars. So what a beautiful
super point, because a lot of people don't realize, or they've not come to this conclusion or this mindset that, listen, adding an ADU is not only for my investment properties. It could be for your primary residence, right? Where you add an ADU, a legal second suite, you rent that out. Let's say it's in the basement.
That's it, man.
Unit, and it's paying your mortgage.
That's it.
In today's 9-to-5 grind or minimum wage grind, if you get into the housing market in the first place, or if you want to get in the housing market, I should say it that way. You brought a good point. Don't think about, I need to have a single family home and live by myself. How am I going to pay for the mortgage? How am I going to take care of the expenses? There are ways. ADUs is one of the ways. House hacking will allow you to own your property, right? And live for free, really live for free.
Absolutely. I mean, these are lessons that we saw. Like we didn't apply that. Like personal, I didn't apply that until I became an investor. Right. But again, for anybody who wants to buy a house, and put the family there, this is a perfect way of reducing your expenses.
Who is that? Anybody? Nasir, let's talk about our age group. If you're talking about the 40s or the 50s, right, and above. Let's say you're just a new immigrant coming from wherever, Asia, or wherever, which part of the world. You just come to Canada, you're a new landed immigrant, you're probably still have a few years to work, but you're looking for a job. But at the same time, you need to live somewhere, right?
That's right.
You need to start your life here because this is where you have come to Canada. It's a perfect example of what you should be doing, right? You should buy, if you're able to put money down and buy a house, buy that house, but do the ADU concept and live for free until you get a permanent job, until you're on your feet, and so on and so forth, right? Use whatever savings you have to buy that asset, add the ADU, and then live for free, right? Rather than taking that savings and going and renting somewhere, because that's as good as
that's a nugget right there, man. Because sometimes we come here and we are completely lost, right? Because it's a new environment, it's new community, society, we just go like everybody else, just rent an apartment, So what this is a value, nugget that you're providing here, where the mindset, people come with the money. Let's not forget that. Like, people come with the money, but what they do, the bank convinced them to put the money in the bank and then use that as a rent, So it's a system by itself, right? What we're trying to do here is that, hey, hold on, there is a way to do better, take your savings, buy a house hack it, and there we go. Now you are on your feet, your mortgage is reduced, and that's it. Then you continue, and one day, who knows, you become an investor as well.
Absolutely.
That's the way to start.
Absolutely. I mean, in our experience, from both of us, and probably a lot of people in your audience as well, we know that, listen, real estate investing is the only sure path to retirement easily, right? You can work, you can get RSPs, you can work in corporate for 20, 30, 40 years. But at the end of the day, is that enough for you to retire at 65 and do nothing for the rest of your life without worrying, how am I going to pay for my mortgage? How am I going to pay for my living expenses? It's not happening. Unless you're a C-class executive, I don't think it's happening. No. Banks are basically, as you said, forcing you to put that into mutual funds, which are giving you peanuts.
Yep. Absolutely.
The education in our country is putting people to do the wrong things, right? We
Right.
know for a fact real estate investing is the only way, because your asset is appreciating in value, you're cash flowing at the end of the month, every month positively, and so on and so forth. So your retirement is secure. So for all the
Awesome, man.
newcomers out there, watch this podcast. I hope you watch
Yeah,
this podcast.
absolutely. Reach out. You know, don't get stuck in your own nutshell. Okay, so come out and talk to people like Savio, myself, and the community out there. Okay. All right. So now we talked about ADU, why people should be doing it, but I think we need to be careful in a way that I can't just buy any property and just snap into an ADU, right? So can you give us some due diligence that you do with your clients when I come to you and say, Savio, I need to buy a house, but this is my end game. I want an ADU at the end of the day, you know? So what do you tell them? Can you share that with us, please?
Yeah, I mean, there's two halves to that question, right? So one half is, of course, the numbers. Yeah.
Okay.
Does it make sense if you have your eye on this particular property, or you have a budget? Let's say you have a budget, right? You don't have the property yet, but you have the budget. Does the numbers make sense that you're going to buy it at this price? You're going to add an ADU. You're going to rent both units individually. What is your cash flow at the end of it, right? So the quick answer to that, if I talk about Windsor specifically, right, where I am, so I'm in Windsor, Ontario, you know, my goal for my clients and for myself is that once I add an ADU, I need to cash flow around $500 a month, right? That's the minimum. That's a walk away for me. So I have a calculator, for example, and I can share that with you and your audience.
Awesome.
So, you know, the calculator will show me basically, this is my purchase price. This is how much I need to add in renovation cost to create the ADU. This is what I'm going to rent the units for, yada, yada, yada. These are all my expenses, my mortgage payments, so on and so forth. Here's the net cash flow I'm going to get at the end of the month. If that number is not more than $500, I'm walking away from the deal. Okay?
Awesome.
So very simply, that's the first sort of answer.
System in place. Yep.
System, right?
Yep.
So that already gives myself or my client the budget. So I know how much I can go up to. Right. Whether I qualify or not, that's a different story. But when I'm looking for these houses, I know if it's more than this number, this X amount purchase price, it's not happening because my cash flow is going to be less than $500, right? Why do I waste my time even looking at that? Right. So it kind of streamlines the process and cuts out a lot of the fat, which you don't want to waste time on. Right. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, okay, let's say you find now this particular house that meets all these numbers, right? It meets the purchase price, it meets the net cash flow at the end of the day. I'm going to buy this house. Here's the other thing. Doesn't mean that it meets the numbers that this house actually is ADU-able, in the sense you can add an ADU. Okay, so there are certain things that you need to do before, or find out before, if this particular property you can add an ADU or not. Because the worst thing is to make all these numbers work, then you buy it, and then you say, and then the city says, oh no, you can't do an ADU on that house. Then you know you're stuck, right?
And yeah.
So there are, I would say, 3 top things that you need to look for in a property before you can even put your offer in, so you know that it's ADU, right? So these are all due diligence you can do much before you even put the offer in, which is great, because that will give you confidence when you finally put in your offer. You know that, you know, it meets all the it ticks all the check boxes, rather, that you can actually do an ADU. This is a sure bet. Okay, so
right.
I want to say there's about 3 or 4 criteria that you have to make sure that this house is achieving before you can actually do an ADU.
ADU, right. So the mindset is, you know, definitely do your research first. You know, like. Would you recommend people like maybe there is a way to look at, let's say, I'm interested in our South Windsor, for example, and I'm planning to do my ADU, but is there a way I can find out like a zoning information, you know, through the city website? Because, you know, those are the criteria, right? Like you have to look at the zoning as well, right? You have to look at, you don't want to buy something and get stuck, you know? Can you share that? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So as I said, there are about 3 or 4. Why I say 3 or 4? Because out of those 3 or 4, 3 of them are fixable, right? You can, even if that house doesn't have it today, you can make it happen, right? You can create it, and we'll go through that list. It only costs money, right? But one, and you mentioned it already, one of them is non-negotiable, right? That's something that you can't fix, or you cannot fix, which is the zoning. Right? So zoning is super important. If the I don't know how far you want to get into this, Nasir, but just let's do a quick kind
high
of
level
summary. A quick summary, right?
Yeah.
Every single property in Canada or in your province is zoned for something, right? It is zoned for a single family home, or it's zoned for I don't know, multifamily, or it is zoned for a commercial use or something like this, right? And that each municipality or each city is actually creating these zones, right? So it's important you know what zone that property is under, because some zones will not allow you to do an ADU right off the start.
Wow.
Okay, it could be a residential zone. So under residential zone, there are many sub zones, if you will, subcategories, right?
The R2s and all those things. Yeah.
Exactly. So there's R.1, R.2, R. 1.1, 1.2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, and then it goes to 2, then it goes to 3, so on and so forth, right? Each municipality is different, I must say. But just because you're in a residential zoning doesn't mean that you can add an ADU. So you need to find that out. Okay, that's very simple to do. All you got to do is go Google your city's or your municipality's website. So you just go, in my case, it's www.cityofwindsor.ca. Okay, so it's a public information. I put in the address there of the property that I'm looking at. It'll give me the zoning, what zone it is. Okay, the number. So let's say it's 1.2, for example.
Right.
Then I look up what they call the city bylaws, which gives the definition of each of these zones. So in this case, 1.2 is a single family home, but I can add, I don't know this for a fact, I'm just, giving an example. I can add a multifamily, for example, or I can have that piece of land have a multifamily, which means 2 or more units, right? One of those definitions will say any accessory units to the above. If you see that in your zone, it means you can add an ADU. If you do not see that, it means you're not going to be able to add an ADU. Okay, so super important. Again, before you even put the offer in, check the zoning, right? As I said, go to your public website, put in the address, check the zoning, check the definition of the zoning, what you can and cannot do. Because immediately it'll tell you, I can buy that house, or I cannot buy that house. Right?
Yeah, doesn't fit your profile.
Doesn't fit the profile. So that's the first thing that is probably non-negotiable. And I say probably because even that could change. Like you can apply for rezoning, okay? But we're not going to get into that process because it's a big, long, drawn-out affair. It makes it, if you're a first-time investor and you just want a quick project that you can add an ADU, probably not for you, right? This is more for seasoned investors like Nasir, who knows what he's doing, right? To go through the rezoning process and so on and so forth. So that's the first thing, zoning. Let's say now you have found the property, it meets the zoning requirements. You know for a fact you can add an ADU. Yay, awesome.
Yeah.
Let's add an ADU.
Yeah, man.
Then you go into the property, right? It's a single family home, remember. Where are you going to add this ADU? Most likely in the basement. You walk down to the basement and you have to walk like this.
Yeah.
You have to crouch because you don't have the right ceiling height.
Ceiling heights. Yeah.
Right? So ceiling height is another big part of ADU, because according to the rules, remember, it is a secondary dwelling unit. People are going to live down there, right? You're not going to have,
they're not going to crawl.
You're not going to have Snow White 7 dwarfs down there, that's for sure, right? You're going to have normal people. So there is a ceiling requirement. According to the Ontario Building Code, you need 6 feet 8 inches, right? That's the minimum ceiling height you can have. It's 6 feet 8 inches in more than 50% of the livable area. Don't get into the pedantics. Get 6 feet 8 inches. If you have that ceiling height minimum in the basement, you're good to go. Okay, there's a little bit of a variation under beams and ducts and so on and so forth. Don't worry about that. If you have finished floor to finished ceiling, 6'8", you're good to go. I always tell my clients, just take 7 foot. That's a nice even number. Take 7 foot as a check, right? Because if you have 7 feet, remember, you got to put drywall, you got to put floor, that adds, half an inch here, half an inch there, that's 1 inch, so on and so forth. So if you have 7 feet ceiling height, no problem. Okay.
Awesome.
Why did I say that some of them are fixable?
I've seen some so crazy stuff the way you fix stuff.
Exactly.
Especially the ceiling one.
Exactly, right? So I found a property, and let's take an example, right? Because I found a property in one of the best places in Windsor to do ADUs. As you know, Nasir, we have a property ourselves, South Windsor, right?
Awesome.
We got it. I looked at my calculator, excellent numbers, beautiful numbers, right? I looked at the zoning, it passed zoning. I walk down to the basement. Guess what? It's less than 6'8". Okay.
Right.
Let's make it even more challenging. I walked down to the basement. In the middle of the basement, it was actually 6'9". So
Okay.
the first reaction is, great, I'm good to go, right? Let's put an offer. Put in the offer, bought the house.
Yeah, because that's the tendency, right? When we walk, we always stand in the middle somewhere, when we are talking about the property, yeah, right?
Exactly, big mistake. But here's the
Yeah.
thing: that was a hoarder house, so he had a lot of stuff in that house.
Wow.
So the only place I could stand was really the middle. Okay, we took out all the stuff from the basement, and we were walking the basement now, and we realized that the basement floor is like this.
Holy,
right? So it's slow. So at the place that we were standing in the middle was 6'9", but then when you walk to the ends of the house or the basement, it drops a good 5 inches.
Holy.
So from 6'9", we are down to 6'4". That's how sloped it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No big deal.
For the beginner, that's a heart attack, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So generally speaking, I'll be like, oh my God. Okay. Nasir and Savio told me these are the conditions. I met the conditions. Now I find out, oh my God.
OMG.
There's actually more. Yes, there's more. But listen, as an investor, you got to realize that there's always going to be hiccups. There's going to be roadblocks, right?
Yeah.
The investor mindset is, how am I going to get past that?
For solution based.
That's it.
Find a solution. Don't focus on the problem.
Exactly.
Because there is always something. Yeah.
In this case, what did we do? We underpinned, right? So for those who doesn't know what underpinning is, basically we lowered the basement floor. That's what we did. Now
take your shovel, man. Start digging.
That's it. That's it. It's fixable. Everything is fixable.
Exactly.
Everything is fixable, right?
Wow.
Because at the end of the day, for the numbers that we calculated on that particular project, even the cost of doing the underpinning, I'm still cash flowing positive, right? Beauty. Done.
And you know what? One thing we didn't touch here is that as soon as you do that, at the end of the day, as soon as you have that ADU, your property value goes up.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Amazing. So it's an effort that we're putting in, but at the end of the day, it pays off. That's the way it looks like.
Yeah. I mean, you got to realize that you're making in essence, you're making one house into two, right?
Right.
So when the banks are valuing that, when they're coming to appraise the house, they're not appraising it as one house anymore. They're appraising it as two houses, right? Even though it's one structure, it's still two houses, right? So can you imagine you bought one house, but you're ending up with two? Like, if that doesn't explain to you the math, then I don't know what will, right? It's just beauty. So that's the second thing. Ceiling heights are very important, right? That zoning, ceiling heights. The third one is, again, something that's not fixable. I tell my clients as well, listen, perfect house. Does it have a great entrance? Does it have a separate entrance going down to the basement, right? Or is the entrance to the basement inside the house? Like some houses, if you can envision this, you're in the kitchen and the basement is from the kitchen going to the basement, right? It's in the middle of the house. Now, not to say that that's a deal breaker, because again, we can make another entrance. We can make a great entrance. What is it going to cost? It's going to cost money. That's it, right? But if you find a house that already has a separate entrance going to the basement, super, check it, because we don't have to spend money on that, right? So that's another thing I look for. And the fourth thing, which is basically, it's very municipality dictated. I can only tell you what's happening in Windsor here. It's parking. Okay. So remember, we are making one house into two houses, right? So in Windsor, and I can say in most municipalities, they are asking now you have to have 2 spots on the driveway, one for each unit, right? So if you have a driveway that's short or not deep enough or not wide enough, that's going to pose a problem, right? So how can you, again, is it fixable? Very much so. Very much so. You can increase the width of your driveway, right? There are rules on that, of course. It's going to cost some money, but as long as you have 2 spots available on the driveway, one for each unit, you're good to go, right? So again, I tell my clients, look at the house, look at the driveway, try and check that off, because you don't want to spend extra money. It's going to cost you money to do the ADU. Why do you want to spend money on increasing the driveway or adding a separate entrance and so on and so forth? If it meets all those requirements, you're good to go.
Especially, especially when people are doing walkthroughs, have this checklist in your head or piece of paper. When you walk in the property, check the driveway. Is it there? Check in if there is don't look at the front door, look at the side door first. Is there a side door? It's a methodical as you visit the house, because that's your intention, is to kind of build a secondary unit, right? So as you walk in, check the driveway, check the side, check the back, if there is any doors, your ceiling, upstairs is all fixable. It's the downstairs that you are kind of interested on.
You remember the first times we were going with our realtors to look at properties, and the first place we go like, let's go to the basement.
Yeah. It's like, why you
just like, why basement? Look at how beautiful this upstairs is. No, we don't want to see the upstairs.
Right.
We want to see the basement, because that's where the money is. Right?
Yeah. I remember those days, man.
But now realtors are better. They understand ADUs.
Exactly.
Right? So they know. So
yes, they understand it as value, and that's the way people can afford to live in a house as well. Like we said, a house hacking.
Yeah. Here's another one. I'm gonna add another twist to this discussion.
Right.
Because I am now convinced in GTA for sure. Okay. Right. But in Windsor, it's beginning, and this is something that I've started over here. I'm not looking at one ADU. I'm looking at 2 ADUs on a single family home, right? Because in Windsor, the lot sizes are much bigger, much bigger. So not only can we add an ADU, additional dwelling unit, on the main structure, now we can add what is called a DADU or a DADU, right? A detached additional dwelling unit in the backyard. So now suddenly you go from one single family to 3 units, all right? Wow. So can you imagine the cash flow there? So, I know it's probably not for this discussion, but I can tell you from my experiences, all my personal properties or portfolio where I do have already an ADU, I'm now constructing in the backyard the 3rd ADU, right? So I'm not looking to acquire new houses anymore. I'm looking to see how can I maximize what I already
have. Yeah.
Right? In Windsor, it's super because the city of Windsor is really promoting DADUs as well.
Yeah.
ADUs for sure, but now DADUs, they want us to do more density.
Or right? garden suite, right? In other cities, they call them,
Detached ADU, whatever.
Yeah.
Laneway house.
Brampton just introduced that in November of 2021. So it's coming up. I've been in those properties trying to see, what's the measurements and space-wise, Yeah. Can you touch a little bit of that, Savio? Like, I saw a project you were doing. You're converting a garage. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So, there's multiple ways to do it, right? So, I'm always telling my clients now, the grass is not always greener on the other side, pun intended. Your grass is actually greener if you have enough grass, because you can make that into another unit, right? So there are multiple ways. If you already have a garage, a big enough garage, and a lot of houses have that, right? Why do you don't even have to construct a new structure. You can use the garage, convert the garage into an ADU. How about that? Right. Man. So now
that's another topic for another day for sure, that will bring back Savio here. Again, man, every time I have a project, I'm like, I know the guy to talk to. It's Mr. Sav.
For you, brother,
the master, man. Master of ADUs and DADUs,
listen. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I did not create any of this, right? Nope. I wish I could say I created this stuff. I did not create this stuff. I look at my peers and what people what's the word I'm looking for? I aim to be like, right? Mm-hmm. And in the investor community, and the investor community is small, Nasir. Yeah. Everybody knows everybody, and thank God it's very helpful. People help each other, right? Unlike other industries. Yeah. So all this, ADUs, DADUs, these are all concepts that people are doing in the GTA, because GTA is the center of the universe, as we know, right? I'm not recreating the wheel. I'm just taking what they're doing and implementing it in my municipality.
Absolutely. Right? Don't reinvent the wheel.
We don't have to. have to. So, it's easy. Everything is figure outable. Everything is fixable.
Awesome, man. Those are my favorite mindset.
and the guts to it, right? So
right. There is a ways to figure it out, man. So Savio, this is being amazing topic. Really wanted to bring you on board, and thanks for accepting on this one, man. I know that there are so much ways to improve even existing property that, like you said, we can add value into it even more, so that's an amazing approach there. Just to wrap up, Savio, like when you talk about ADUs or DADUs, roughly in your area, what you have seen from a cost perspective, like range wise,
that's
I know right now the COVID has thrown things off the off the road on the pricing,
Super,
material, man. So
super hard. Material is it's crazy. It's really
yeah,
crazy.
right.
In months it changes, right? Now today, a 2x4x8, one stick 2x4x8, which we use for framing
Right.
the basement. I think it's $9.99.
Man,
One stick, huh? And we're talking
before
about,
COVID was like $4 or something like that.
yeah, exactly.
Jeez.
At its lowest was 3 something, and then
Yeah.
it went up to 12, then it dropped. And here's the thing, we can't even foresee, right? I find it very hard to foresee, because by the time we start a project to the time, I should say, by the time we buy a house, close the house, to the time we start a project, it's a good 3 months, because not only do you close the house, which is 30 days, but then you got to apply to the city for permits and so forth. So you cost everything out based on, okay, I'm buying this house for this price, this is my renovation cost, right? But in the 3 months, that cost could go completely off, right? Because of the price of material and so forth.
Right, right.
So I'm going to give you very rough, budgets that you should keep in mind, right? And then, then also to add to the complexity, what's the upper unit like? Do you need to refresh the upper unit? Do you need to change the kitchen, the bathroom to make it look more modern, to attract the best type of tenants and so on and so forth, right? So is the lower unit already finished that you have to demolish because now you're doing an ADU? Remember, in ADU, there's certain rules that you have to apply, right? You have to get city inspection. If you don't pass the inspection, you're not going to get the certificate saying that that's a livable unit. So just because your lower unit or basement is completely finished with a kitchen and a beautiful bathroom doesn't mean it's a legal ADU, right? More than likely, you have to pull down walls. So there's a lot of differences in projects, right, when it comes to costing. But on a general note, I would budget something like between $100 to $150 per square foot. Okay, that's a very rough number that you should, right? So if you have 1,000 square foot basement, roughly, you're looking about $100,000, right? On the low end, you're looking at $150,000 on the high end, right? Now those numbers look, sound very shocking, but you got to realize, as I said, as Nasir said, that when you go to refi from the bank, they're not looking at it at one house, you're looking at it 2 houses now, right? So can you, so my mindset to the client and to myself is, can I go buy another house for $150,000?
Impossible, man.
Impossible.
Anywhere.
Right? Anywhere. I don't care where you are in Ontario, right? Anywhere. So, but I can create a second house for $150,000. When you understand,
that's way different. Yeah.
When that sinks in, it's amazing.
Yeah, right? Gotta do it. Yeah. And again, looking at the cost perspective, right? Like many of us or many people will borrow their money from their HELOC from the principal resident. So again, it's a peanuts, out of the 150K, it's like you're paying maybe roughly $300 to $400 a month, which is, and that property will give you at least $1,500 in rent, minimum, right? So you do your math, you're still winning at the, extra $1,000 right there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the mathematics don't lie, right? At the end of the day, it's figures. You can.
Awesome, man.
You can't fool people with figures, right? So.
All right. Okay, man. Basic questions for you. I know you live in your car, you travel project to project. What's your healthy snack, man?
My healthy snack. Wow.
Yeah, to wrap up, man.
It's my daughters, man, my kids. That keeps me going, right? That's the only thing that keeps me going. They call me on FaceTime, Daddy, where are you?
Wow.
I'm in the project site. That gives me energy, man. That gives me energy.
I know.
I come back home now. So okay, then I come back home,
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing because your instinct kicks in, because these things we do for our kids and their generation as well. So when you get the surprise call, you're like, oh man, that was a best coffee ever you had,
That's it, man.
Wow. You have any book that you want to recommend to the viewers, to the listeners? Any particular book that you really loved?
Man,
there is tons of them, but
you know what? I don't know if this is a next question of yours, but I'll answer it anyways. I'm not a big book guy, I'll be honest, right?
Okay.
I just don't have the time or the energy or the patience to sit there and flip pages or even listen to the audio. But I do listen to podcasts, right?
Awesome.
I do listen to podcasts because I think there's a lot of, especially for investing, right? There's so many good Canadian podcasts out there that gives me all the information that I need to do my work, right? Not only that, it gives me the motivation as well, because I see other guys just like me who started off with nothing, right, and now become something, like yourself as well, Nasir. I mean, we've gone to these events before. So there are about 4 or 5 podcasts, Canadian podcasts, that I listen to more than reading books.
Awesome. I mean, especially on the go, right? That's the other thing. You know, when you're on the go, you can just listen to any of these podcasts and, you know, get your fuel.
Yeah, it's in the car, right? And they're free. They're free, man.
I know.
Listen,
So much content.
I've paid training, right? I've gone for paid training, you know, how to flip homes, how to do construction, so on and so forth. I spent thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on training, right? Here's my bottom line. And you should do that. Okay. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. You should do that. I mean, depending on where you want to go with your goals. But the bottom line for me is like this. There's not one thing that I learned in the training that I did not get for free in one of these podcasts. Because again, we're not creating the wheel. Somebody's done it before and somebody's made the mistakes before. So listening to their stories, you know, you understand when it's your turn. Oh, he had that experience. I shouldn't do that. He chose the wrong contractor. He didn't interview the right tenant, right? He went for financing before he actually did the construction. You get all this information before for free through these podcasts. So that's a super, super important resource.
Awesome, man. Again, I want to thank you for your time. You know, Savio, this is being a long plan to get you on board here and talk about these projects. Amazing way to improve any property value. So thanks for joining. Really appreciate for your time and you know, and everything that you do. And I see great comments on the Facebook, how much you're providing support to your clients. It's been amazing. So Savio, how can people reach you? Like, is it Instagram, Facebook, or?
Yeah, all social media. So I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Go check out my YouTube channel. I have a lot of construction related info there or content there. So it's all under Real Estate Investor SAV. Real Estate Investor SAV. Okay, SAV. So that's my name, first 3 initials of my name, .com, you know, at whatever. So just search me up and you'll find me somewhere. You know, awesome. Otherwise you can put some smoke signals and I'll see the smoke.
Awesome. Yeah. Otherwise, reach out to us, reach out to me. We'll introduce you to Savio, and there we go. It's contact people that you know, and then they will reach out to other people as well. My friend, thanks very much for being here and you know, helping the community as well.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.